Right, hello, hello, hello. Day 4 Q&A at the SEO Mastery Summit. And as always, I want to start out by thanking our amazing sponsors. First of all, ODYS and their amazing domains. Second up, we have Investors Club, and obviously they're an amazing marketplace for buying and selling websites, which is obviously very much relevant. And lastly, we have Buzz Logic that help you increase their website with their amazing SEO skills. So that's the 3 main sponsors. Now we have Craig back again after yesterday. So today he did a great talk about using not expired domains. I'm getting ahead of myself. Using age domains or auction domains. And yeah, we have had lots and lots of questions. So I was just actually going through my Facebook messages. I'm not sure why people love using my Facebook messages, but I've had about 80 messages since last night. So a lot to go through. Again, guys, if you have questions, you feel very free to fire them here live as well. So, and I'm hoping one more, or perhaps 2 more speakers will join us throughout it. But it is early morning for a lot of the speakers. So we'll see what happens. So, Craig, first question here is how to audit my website well. I've tried both SEMrush and Ahrefs audits, but I'm not really sure what to do with the results. And then she said, I'm not a developer, LOL.
I mean, auditing your website is it's kind of broad question. Now, obviously, you can use the likes of SEMrush, but there are other elements. What are you trying to audit is the first thing. SEMrush will give you 404 errors, and various other types of errors. Maybe your SSL is not installed properly, and various things like that. But it doesn't, dig deep into like site speed or whatever. So, and there's no one tool that works across the board when you're auditing a website. Now, depending on what the problem is, if your website you think is reasonably good and blah 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 blah, then SEMrush should be normally fine to find out if you're maybe you haven't done a redirect, or you've got like a broken image, or various things like that. But if you're looking at more specific stuff like internal linking, people audit that stuff, or site speed or various other things, then you use other tools like GTmetrix or whatever. There's plenty of tools out there that are free and easy to use, like Pingdom and various other speed checkers as well. So it really, when you audit a website, you get SEMrush, and it will give you some stuff to do, probably things like compress some JavaScript or whatever as well. That's something you would just instantly send over to a developer. I'm not a developer, but I know that that's a developer's job to do that. So you would send that over to them, just say, go to, kind of minimize, the impact of the load time and all this kind of stuff that's not being used or whatever. You can get them to do that. But, a lot of the stuff you don't actually have to be a developer. Fixing links, fixing, maybe your SSL certificate, has been installed and you've still got some coded in links on there, that don't have the HTTPS on there. These are all things that you can do, and you don't need a developer to do that. So, as I say, it's one of those questions where you would say it depends. When you're auditing a website, what you're looking for, you can even go even deeper. And I think Andy Halliday either has spoken or he will be speaking, looking at the server logs. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to find out how the bots are seeing your website? If there's any problems with the bots, getting through your website, then you may have to look at the server logs. And that's more of a geeky thing to do. Some people don't even know where the server logs are. So there's auditing a website could mean so many different things. And SEMrush doesn't really go into the kind of server logs. Now, again, you can go in, you can upload your server log files to SEMrush, and it can give you a bit more detail on it. But again, it's not a comprehensive, in-depth thing. That's where you can maybe use guys like Andy Halliday or specialists or whatever. But all of this stuff can be outsourced as well. So I think, on SEMrush, when you audit it, it's got like a little information tab that will tell you what that actually means in layman's terms as well, which I think is quite a good thing. But it's hard to say how you would fully audit a website. There's just so many other things, other tools, manual checks that you might do, that, auditing is not just running it through a Screaming Frog or a SEMrush or whatever.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, my experience is definitely that both Ahrefs and SEMrush have like some good tools, right? So like the audits can tell you a lot of things, like basic stuff. If you haven't got alt tags, sometimes they're good at calling out if you have orphan pages, or they're good at calling out some of the smaller issues that you can fix and maybe get some smaller gains from. One of the things I would say as well is definitely on YouTube. I mean, you can find lots of people auditing things, and you can find lots of people going through various checks and balances, right? So if you aren't sure where to start, I would say you can actually find some decent videos on YouTube of people doing various audits. But just as Craig said, that there's so many things you can audit, right? Like you can even audit your content with Surfer to try and figure out if your content is the way it should be and so on, right? So lots of ways. And there's a ton of tools out there. I mean, POP, Cora, lots of content tests. Yeah, lots and lots of options. And having a lot of people join in here. Jason Dooley, Michael, excellent. So next question. I have started a site on an auction domain as it sounded great. I've written a few posts, but it all seems daunting starting a new site from scratch. How do you go about starting up when you haven't got a huge budget and you haven't yet found your writer's itch?
Your writer's itch. I've never found my writer's itch, to be honest. But obviously, when you're starting on a low budget, you've got to shop around, maybe use people at our university, or outsource to countries where there's a lower cost of living, and their English is decent. South Africa is one of those places as well. And I'm sure, even if you reach out to people at Mads, you must know a ton of content writers that can do stuff on the cheap, being based where you are. So there's so many options. But what I would say to anyone, if you're trying to get an affiliate website off the ground, there's got to be some spend. It is really hard. If you've not got that writer's itch, you're going to struggle. Now, I'm actually releasing a video tomorrow morning on my YouTube, which was me auditing a website of someone who I trained, who actually, put up 10 blog posts, basically, didn't make any money from it, and then walked away. Now, their on-page was garbage. There was not a single internal link. 10 posts is not enough. Now, that 10 posts got this person ranking for 800 keywords, but she gave up very quickly. So what I would also say is you've got to push through, and you've got to put 20 or 50 or, put a lot more into it. And if you've not got that writer's itch, borrow some money, because no matter what, you need to load up that website with content. First and foremost, you're not going to get anywhere. Now, that could be going after a whole bunch of long tail keywords or whatever it may be. And then you start to get some money in, which you can then re-put into the website, buy more content, then go on and, do your own page and try and get Surfer or whatever. I've been there. I've, not had money for certain things, and I've worked on projects where, of course, I could have done with double or treble or quadruple the budget, if not more. But you've got to make the most of it, and content is the key part. The part that probably will cost you money, but if you can somehow get your writer's itch back, it will stand you in good stead. I would say that if you've got no budget, because you can go and get articles for $5 or $4 or whatever, but they're absolute garbage. You've then got to go to Surfer, or whatever tool you use, and try and pad that out. And by that,
you spend as much time doing that as you would have writing the article from
it's
scratch.
just stressful. So, yeah, and as I say, borrow some money. I mean, I can't guarantee it will come off because I don't know your level of, skills and interpretation of SEO. But if you're that confident and it's just a budget thing, maybe do a joint venture with someone who does have money or something like that as well. So it is daunting, and I do feel your pain, but there is no special place, middle ground where you get kind of cheap, good content. You just get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Or
And
pay twice.
the other thing I would say, and what I see works really well, like when you're just starting out, like having some people around you that you communicate with on a regular basis can really be a big help, right? If you're just sitting at home and you're just chucking through this alone, that's really hard, right? Like it's really hard getting your first 20, 30, 40 articles up. It's really hard if you don't have the community. But like a couple of the groups that I'm in, so like Authority Hackers and the Lab and so on, one of the big wins with those is you have people who are in groups who are encouraging each other, they're showing each other results, and it helps make people go. But exactly as you said, if you're just sitting home alone, you're like writing, you have 10 articles, you're like, oh, what am I doing here, right? Like I really recommend you come out and like even find two, three, four people who's at your level, and set up a chat with them like twice a month or whatever. Just how are you doing? What have you managed to do? And learn a little bit from each other and so on. It goes a long way, right? Because starting out in anything is difficult. But particularly in this space where a lot of people end up sitting at home by themselves, particularly at the moment where there isn't physical meetups and stuff, that makes a huge difference.
But also, bear in mind, if you've got any particular skills or access to websites, you can trade off, links for content or whatever as well. Think outside the box. If you've not got money to pay for it, have you got something you can offer in return for that content? What I've done, and I probably shouldn't say this because I'll probably get shot down in flames for this. I remember years ago, I never had a huge amount of money, and I basically posted an ad on Gumtree offering to pay content writers £20 a pop for articles. And there was no job. I really didn't have money to pay anyone. But what I'd done was got the hundreds of applicants who applied for that job thinking they were going to get a £20 an hour job to write me a test article, and I got a whole bunch of free content. So I'm not condoning you go and do that, but think outside the box as well. When push comes to shove, sometimes you've got to cheat a little bit to get your foot in the ladder. And I'm not saying fraudulently do things to people or whatever, but think outside the box.
Yeah, I would say totally. I've unfortunately seen a lot of people do that, but not a great way to start out for sure. But yeah, I mean, and particularly trading skills, right? I mean, a lot of the things, if you're new, if you have a brand new site, right, like link building, for example, is something that most people can communicate, and particularly by email, right? So if you can do some link building yourself and so on, if you can go into a community and do some trade-offs with other people, for example, people who like writing content or have solid writers, that might be a very good way to start off, right? I'm totally like yourself. I think about 6 years ago, I wrote a 1,000-word blog post, and it probably took me about 3 years to get my act together and do it. So I'm definitely not someone for written content, but yeah. And I mean, there's people who go out there and write Grab Taxi and spend the money on content instead because they like writing Grab instead, right? So again, like starting a website, it's like starting a business. You have to invest a little bit, and exactly as the poster behind you, he who is not courageous enough to take risk will accomplish nothing in life. So yeah,
yes,
take some risks.
Take a risk, yeah,
definitely. Right, next one. I would love to get started by getting a site making $300 to $500 a month. But where do I find them? Sites on Empire Flippers are way above my budget. I've tried Flipper, but really not sure how to properly vet the sites and validate that it's actually worth it.
I mean, there's loads of places you can look. Like there's a website, not a website, a group on Facebook called Flipping Websites, and there's always guys in there selling websites. Now, I can't tell you, or I can't emphasize the importance of doing your own due diligence. Check that, see if it's propped up on PBNs, check if everything's right. Obviously, Empire Flippers are not going to list, rubbish little websites. It's just not worth their while at that level. Now, when you're looking for something to start off $300 or $500, you're still going to be paying, probably about 10, 15 grand or 20 grand for that website, depending on, the multiples and everything else. But on these private Facebook groups, I think there's some golden gems in there. And I personally bought websites from guys. I remember buying a website probably about 18 months ago, and the guy hadn't monetized it yet, but he had a whole bunch of content on it. Now, what I was able to see there is this website was getting traffic. He had applied the content. He didn't add an affiliate link at all. And he basically said to me, Craig, I've just run out of time. And that is the problem for many people. I've got many friends in this industry who start a project, they actually forget they own the website. So they've stuck 30 articles on there and then just not done anything with it because they've been, taken away to another project and forgot all about it. So there's loads of opportunities there where you can go in and grab something that you can simply just stick links on, and boom, you're getting some money coming in. So there's a lot of good stuff on that Facebook group. Other than that, you can also reach out to lazy affiliates, do Google search commands for copyright 2017, 2018, and see websites that are just being left that may be earning, $200-300 a month. Approach them and just say, listen, I'm interested in this. It's got a lot of content on it. Try and seek out opportunities. What you want to do is find someone who has maybe been passionate when it comes to writing and have flung a whole lot of effort at it, but just really not knowing what they're doing. You can swoop in, join all the dots together, build some links, and bang, flip that website on for 10 times what you paid for it. And that is essentially what you're looking for. So I think private Facebook groups are good. Flipper, there are gems on there, but also, again, do your own due diligence. You want to make sure that it's not propped up in PBNs, it's not been spammed to death. Someone hasn't grabbed a domain name that's trademarked or whatever. There's a lot of different checks that have to go on, and a lot of people bullshit Photoshop, analytics and a whole bunch of other stuff. So make sure that you do get those checks, because people can give you read-only access to all of that stuff, and you can actually see whether it's BS or not. So there are a lot of scamsters, but equally there's a lot of gems in there. It's just identifying those opportunities and making sure that if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So just be careful. But that Facebook group is a place where I would highly recommend that you get some low-end stuff for a reasonable price.
Yeah. Right. So here's a question from Lisa, and that's not the Lisa we know, but a different Lisa. And she's saying, loving all the presentations, but I'm new and it all seems a lot. Where do I start?
That is a very good question, Lisa. Where do you start? I think for me, if I would advise anyone when you enter the game, I would be learning on a client's budget. So if you're entering the SEO world, you want to develop your skills, do your apprenticeship whilst working on someone else's dime, basically. Utilize their budget to try Facebook ads and hone your whole digital marketing skill set, try stuff out. Once you then refine that and you actually understand what you're doing, you can then look at affiliate options. And I get it, you've looked at a conference that's in day 4, and they've got 5 speakers a day, and one guy's saying do this and another guy's saying do that, and there's so many people making all this kind of crazy money, and because all of these guys are top speakers, but they make money from so many different angles. Now, What I'd also say is really, do you want to become a digital marketer, a broad range of skills? That takes years and years and years to develop. Niche down. Are you good at content? Are you good at link building? Are you good at whatever? And focus on that. Now, I've got a friend, and again, I don't know when he spoke, Gary Wilson, who many people know now, the owner of Get Me Links. Now, Gary has focused solely on link building. That's all he does day to day. He's systemized it. He's automated certain parts of it. He's got outsourced a lot of the work, and he's scaled that thing up. And the growth that guy's had, over the last 2 or 3 years, from a guy who 3 years ago, Mads, and this is a true story, and Gary, I tell it all the time, Gary was actually saying to me, Craig, I'm not coming to Brighton SEO. It's $400. That's a lot of money. I'm not sure if I'm going to go down there and waste my time. It was the best £400 he ever spent. And we basically introduced him to the community, but he really focused on links. Before that, he was trying to do a bit of this and a bit of that and had no real focus. So really focus on it. I know guys who do audits all day. I know guys who do link building all day. I know guys who do content all day. I know guys who do consultancy all day. So whatever your skills are, you can make a career out of it. I mean, there's even Andy Halliday, who pretty much does, and it's probably not fair to say he pretty much just does server logs, because that's not a true reflection on him. He's got his own e-commerce site and stuff like that. But, he has built this niche as being the server log guy, the same way that guys will do reputation management and various other bits. So really niche down and become a specialist in something. Because how many times have you heard, Mads will be able to answer this, hi Lisa, in the community, someone said, who's the best guy to go to sort out WordPress, or who's the best plugin guy, or who's the best guy at funnels? You really can focus and just being the funnel guy. If you're really good at creating funnels and all that stuff, people pay you. People cannot. The thing in this industry is people can't be asked doing it. There's guys out there like Dooley, for example, who's in the chat, who's just like on the WhatsApp, hey man, who do I go to for this, that, or the next thing? Because he doesn't want to do it. He just uses money to make more money, which is the cleverest way of working. But that means there's opportunities for you to shoehorn yourself into something you're good at and get involved with these guys. And these guys will continue paying you if you're good at what you're doing. So really niche down and focus on it.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, particular tools in particular, right? Like, pick a freaking tool and just become absolutely expert at it, right? Like one of the things that I don't see a lot of people specializing in is things like analytics, right? Like if you specialize in setting up analytics and really, setting up amazing tracking and stuff like that, like again, not a ton of people do that, right? So there's lots of like pick a tool that's a little bit unique. Think like Pitchbox. Probably difficult to learn if you don't have much of a budget, but again, like if you're a Pitchbox expert, right? Like there's a ton of work for you, right? One of the things that I say is again, pick a path and follow it, right? So like try a few different things, right? To try and figure out like what you like doing, and then pick something and just really try and hone in on it, right? Also, like IMG, for example. So I'll throw a link in here, but basically IMG is currently running a huge promotion where you can basically sign up and I think get like 10 or 20 courses or something for $1 for a week. And basically, again, here's people who go down similar to this conference, but much more detailed, goes into a specific either tool or activity or the likes, right? Where again, you can go in, learn a specific skill, and really make sure you just, become an expert in that area. And that could, I mean, PBNs, right?
You could any like just be, even go into GMBs, which is piss easy to rank. Google Maps, you can blow that shit up. And again, find your knack, find the process, and just, as Matt says, just hone in on it, and people will pay you all day long for it.
Thank you, Anthony. I assume you mean me.
Yeah,
that can't be correct. So, well, I would say I am up at 5 a.m. in the morning, which I will not be after this event is over. But yeah, all good. Thank you for your comment, Anthony. So, next question is, I lost all the questions here. So, I really like Gabriel's presentation, and it all makes sense. So, Gabriel's presentation was on selling SEO, but I'm so uncomfortable talking to people on the phone. Can I not build a good email framework to sell them on SEO through email instead?
I mean, you can try it, but sometimes, and here is just my angle on it. Sometimes people buy into people; they want to hear a voice. What you'll also find is a lot of business owners are older people, and they prefer picking up the phone. They don't like emails, so you're going to be cutting off a huge part of your opportunities that are there. I know so many guys that own businesses that just don't like writing emails. They just don't want to do it. And unfortunately, we have a position where we're all marketers, and I think maybe in 20 years' time that approach can work. But whilst there's still business owners who are technophobes, you're going to have to or hire someone who can speak, because I think sales is the most important thing. People buy into people. Would you pay someone having never spoke to them before and you know they just emailed you? Probably not. You want to jump on a Zoom. You want to be able to talk to them, see the whites of their eyes. You know, and that's why a lot of businesses conducted at networking events and you know, when we go to conferences and stuff, you've met a guy, you see him, you're like, I quite like Mads. Not that I actually like Mads, but I'm just, you know, just in general, you'd be like, I quite like Mads. I like what he had to say. So I'm comfortable using that guy now. And, and that's what people buy into people. They do not buy into email spam, in my opinion. And I think a faceless thing is a much harder sell. Of course, there's people out there who are selling simply using online techniques, but you are narrowing your opportunities down in a big way. So if you don't want to do it, get someone else to do it. I don't particularly sell to people. You know, I've got a business partner that deals with a lot of stuff for me. I don't particularly want to be sitting talking shit on the phone all day. I'd rather talk shit on videos. That's, you know, we've all got our different things that we do, but it's probably similar to your business, Mads. You know, what does Janice do on a day-to-day basis? You know, he's taking stuff away from you that you just can't be bothered or don't have time to do. And if that's sales, you know, if you'd rather be the geek that does SEO, then implement and put someone in that position to take care of that for you, because I think someone really does have to be the face or the voice of the company.
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I definitely know people who are doing it only through email, but it's often people who already have a reputation, right?
Mhm.
Like if you build a reputation over years, and you know, it's easy to say, oh well, I do everything by email. I tell people, you know, if they want to talk to me, talk to my email type thing, and you know that's great if you already have a client base and people know about you and stuff. But if you're just starting out, that's probably not the way to go. And honestly, I mean, I'll probably go down the route of what we talked about in the previous question and actually ask yourself, if you don't want to get on the phone with people, are you really looking to start an agency? Because honestly, a lot of agency success is it's about talking to people, right? It's expectation settings, communication. It's the most important things in running an agency. Probably more important than the actual SEO itself. So, yeah, definitely.
I'm just muting every time you talk because I think my young kid is screaming. So apologies if you can hear him in the background.
We can't, but that's okay. Right, so this one is very similar. I'm an aspiring SEO specialist, and I want to know how to step up, get to know the basics at all. I think we've kind of covered that. So that's really like what we talked about before. Another similar one. I'm a beginner specialist. My job is to become the best and help a colleague to open a company next year. Again, I would definitely go down the route of what we talked about previously, and basically, yeah, focus on something, right? So My absolutely pet peeve when I coach businesses is they want to do everything all the time, right? So they start out and they're like, yeah, we want to do SEO and social media and build websites, and we want to do it all, everything. We can do it all. I'm like, you're one person. Are you going to be an expert at building websites, at SEO, at social media, etc.? No. If you want to build a solid agency, you do one thing, which is start with one process, right? Just pick one thing. And as Craig said earlier, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be content, it could be links, but you can scale it down even more, right? It could be a certain type of links, it could be a certain type of content, it could be a certain type of clients. I mean, one of the most successful writers I know that makes the most money basically specialize in writing content for SaaS businesses. She realized that SaaS companies generally makes a good bit of money if they're successful. And she can charge them a lot more money because she does amazing content that converts and bring them a ton of customers. So again, like just niching down, and particularly if you're looking to start a new agency or a new business, niche down and just get it right.
Yeah, and I'll give you one example of where I went wrong. When I had an agency, I used to do everything, websites and everything, and I actually came to breaking point because 70 or 80% of my time was fighting with people on web changes and stupid web design stuff, to the point where I just said, fuck web design, to fuck with web design altogether. Stop offering it as a service. It's an absolute joke because it's not my interest. It's not where I'm comfortable, and it's really stressful. So that, don't get yourself in that position.
Yeah, definitely. So this one is a bit similar to the audit question you had earlier, but this girl says, love Daryl's speech. I'm eager to get started. What's the best way to get a solid audit process going? Any simple audit templates or worksheet out there?
I mean, a lot of the audit guys are not they're not going to hand it all on a plate. I think for you, there are guys that do videos, go on YouTube, see the guys that are talking about audits and all that kind of stuff. But one way I'd be looking to do it is you research and identify who you think's the best at audits and hop on a call with them, book an hour or two of consultancy and really pick their brains. Most guys are really open when it comes to that. They may even give you parts of the template or, whatever, depending on who you talk to. But as someone, for example, Daniel Cutteridge, technical guy who probably does audits all day long, is he really going to lay a template out showing you exactly what he's doing and how he does it so that everyone else can hop into the market? Absolutely not a chance in hell. And that is where I think you do have to book those consultancy calls, network time, befriend these people, do whatever you need to do, send them vodka, whatever, work on them, and they may open up a bit more, because no one in this industry is giving everything away. Why would you? Even when we're talking about links or content or whatever, no one's giving you the exact process or the key, the real granular details, and that's what you're essentially asking for, is the granular details. No one's sharing it to any great degree. They will touch on points, and it's a case of you listening to the 10 best guys, piecing it all together, hopping on a call with 2 or 3 of them, and then you will have hopefully you'll be a lot closer to that solution.
Yeah, definitely. I was just remembering, actually, I think Ren Stewart might have something. I know he's selling off sometimes some of his processes and so on in his business, so he might actually be a good guy to look at. But yeah, I generally agree, right? I mean, I think some of the best money I've ever spent, not just in SEO, but in anything, is just pay an expert at something for a couple of hours of their time and jump on a call with them or a Zoom or whatever. And like you can save yourself so much trouble, right? Like I've had times where I've had like a great idea to build a new plugin or a great idea to build a new SaaS or start a new business or something, right? And you jump on a call with a developer and you're like, yep, that'll be like 10 years worth of work, and you're like, okay, maybe not so great an idea. So yeah, I totally agree. I mean, sometimes when you build solid relationships, and particularly when you go out and help other people, it comes back tenfold, right? Like I love helping people. I love helping people get moving, and people growing their business. And the thing is, when you help a lot of people, they're generally very eager to help you back. So like I have lots of people that, if I have a certain problem, like they'll jump on a call, and that's cool, right? But it take you some time to build that up, and it takes you some time to build that relationships. But I mean, business is really about networking, and that's about any business, right? And like also in the SEO industry, like everyone have certain skills, right? So it's the more people you get to know, the more different people you can lean on when you need to.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough about surrounding yourself with the right people, for sure.
How did you end up around me then?
I don't know. I get dragged over to Chiang Mai, and I had blocked you, remember? And I don't know how I blocked you actually, but yeah, we were drunk talking, and yeah, somehow he convinced me to unblock him, and we've kept in touch ever since. So I just feel sorry for you, Mads, if I'm being honest.
Me too. So Lisa, that's a picture of Mr. S. This is very true. I met Craig. Craig introduced me to Mads. Well, you're screwed for life now. That's all. Right. Automation. What's the best way of getting started with automation so I don't have to do all this stuff myself?
Again, this is it depends. I think there's a lot of things you can automate. If there's grunt work that can be done on a browser, a lot of that can be automated. However, it can be dangerous to automate a lot of stuff. Now, let's talk about a basic bit of automation. LinkedIn, for example. So there's automated tools where you can add people in LinkedIn, connect with them, endorse them, send them messages, the whole works. Now, there's nothing worse when someone connects with you and then sends, one of those messages where it says, hey man, I'm doing a bit of this and I'm doing a bit of that, and do you fancy hopping on a call for 15 minutes? And you're just like, I know this is automated. It's just garbage. It's annoying. It's really fucking annoying. So it depends on what you're automating. Of course, grunt work processes, scraping things, using a Python developer to do certain things that are repetitive tasks. Of course, automate that. But when it comes to social media and things like that, I think, you can schedule stuff, but automating it all, things go wrong. You end up blocking the wrong people, or you add the wrong people. There's a whole bunch of things that can go wrong with automation. And, even when it comes down to kind of link building and stuff, again, if you're looking at tools like SEO Autopilot or Money Robot or GSA or anything like that, they're dangerous. They can be dangerous if they're in the wrong hands. You need to know how to use that and where to point those links to and all of that kind of stuff. So I think automation is good and well for those repetitive tasks back and forward that you're doing in a computer. I think link building automation is great if it's used properly. LinkedIn automation can also be good for a lot of the grunt work, but there's going to always have to be that human element, human outreach, reaching out to people and saying, hey, Mads, I'm interested in talking to you. I've seen your shit and, let's become friends, because you can't automate that to any great degree. You have to be a person behind that. So I think for me, whether it's social media, whether it's link building, whatever, there has to be that manual element to it. Otherwise, you're not going to build those relationships. And I think, again, going back to what Mads was saying earlier, the most successful people in this industry are the ones that have a close-knit bunch of friends who are all doing stuff. Now, I've been there as an agency owner where I was like, I'm not interested in going to Brighton SEO or any of these other events because I don't want to talk to another SEO. He might steal my ideas. He might steal my clients, blah, 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 blah. No one gives a shit about your shitty little clients. That is the reality. open up, help people, and you will get help back. And if you're surrounding yourself with sensible people, then you're going to grow with them. You surround yourself with people that are better than you, and really grow from there. But I think that can't be automated, and I think that's the key part of the whole thing. Sure, citation building can be automated. You just go to Robert Kirk and he automates it for you. That's the way
I
it goes.
was about to say that. I mean, automation is basically pay people to what they're good at, right? So pay some developers to do the link, pay some great content teams to do content.
That's the thing, lads. These guys have built that. They've systemized that little niche, and then going back to the other person who's saying, "Where can I get in?" Robert Kirk, for example, has niched down and automated that shit, and that's just everyone just goes to him for citations because it's all automated. You get your report in 5 days, job done. You've ticked it off. You're automating half your processes. Do not look to automate everything yourself because guys have already got the tools to do it. Just use them. Use money to make more money.
Yeah, and I would say as well, I mean, Jared actually did a good talk about some automation earlier on in the week. And that's definitely worth looking at if you're thinking about automation. I mean, definitely if you're running an agency, there's a lot of processes, or even if you're running your own sites, there is a lot of processes that, with Google Sheets and stuff, some automation can help you be a lot more effective, right? And Jared actually did a really, really good speech on that. Also, one of the things that I never thought I would see automated was keyword research, but on Monday we had. I'm just looking for the link here. I'll post that in a little bit. But we showed the tool Keyword Cupid, which again helps you basically automate a lot of the sort of take your big list of keywords and really cluster them into good clusters. And that was definitely one of the things I hadn't expected to be automated anytime soon. But the link to that one is seomasterysummit.com/kcupid. And in that one, that was on Tool on the Day, one of the first days. And that's, if you haven't seen that, that is definitely worth a look.
Yeah, Big Leo's a smart guy. That's another thing. He is probably not fair to say the Rain Man, but he's really geeky with all that kind of automation stuff. And I think the bad thing about people, they just assume Keyword Cupid's another keyword research tool. But until you actually see it in action, then you're like, fuck. This can help you obviously figure out your content plan, but you can use it for internal linking and everything else. That's giving you the bloody answers right there by just simply uploading that, Ahrefs or SEMrush file. So great tool. Can't speak highly enough about Keyword Cupid.
Now, the next question. So, lots and lots of content AI tools out there. Are we wasting our time as SEO because the internet will be taken over by automated content in the near future?
Absolutely no chance in hell. Again, going back to what we said just there, you need a human being to oversee it now, of course. I think, one day AI and automation is going to churn out content and probably do it to a reasonably good standard. But you're still going to have people looking at that, adding buttons in the right places, testing stuff, moving stuff around. So content writers may, I'm not going to say nothing's ever going to beat manual, well-written content. I don't think AI is going to be anywhere near as good as we may all think it will be in the next 4 or 5 years. I think you're probably talking 10 years down the road. We'll be these tools, Spinners or Word AI or any of these kind of tools have been around for years and they're still dog shit, to be honest. Let's be brutally honest about it. It's not fast moving in any stretch of the imagination. But the way I look at it is, so what if it does become really good in 5 years' time? My life's going to be fucking easier. So I hate content writing. And if I could use something like that to spend my time doing other things, then I certainly don't see, bots or whatever taking over the internet. You're always going to have human beings in there. When you've got an algorithm, you need humans to play on it and add their things into the mix. So not everything can be automated. No chance, not in my opinion.
Definitely, and the whole SEO aspect is still the same, right? Like even if you have some bots automatically writing the content, like all the SEOing part of it, all the technical pieces are still there, right? So it still takes effort to rank, and there's still things to be done outside that anyway,
Yeah.
right? So
It's just the heavy lifting that the AI is going to take over eventually.
yeah.
So what? I mean, that's a good thing, right?
I would, I wouldn't mind not having to write and worry about another piece
It
of
means we
content.
could launch another 5 businesses. So scale up. That's the way I look at it. I look at it in a positive light anyway.
Yeah. Right. Long question here from Mark. For reputation management, do you think getting those ODYS domains makes the most sense, or better EMDs with the brand, like productinfo.com? Try to fill the main page. Any other tips, advice for reputation management? Did already social profiles, guest posts, now setting up brand pages like productx.com, productinfo.com.
I mean, I think obviously for reputation management, you want to have a mix of everything. Now, first thing, getting something from ODYS, of course, is going to help you. You're taking advantage of the power and the backlink profile that a domain already has. Rather than going out and trying to get an exact match domain name with the brand in it, you're going to be starting from scratch. You're going to have to spend money on backlinks anyway. And what's the point? I think for reputation management, it's all about speed and pace of working, but also on top of, potentially using ODYS to capture some of those positions. Other things that you can do is take advantage of the power of other websites. For example, Behance.net, well-known website that you can get a guest post on. You get the ability by buying a guest post to pick the title tag and all the kind of content. You're going to use that to rank really well, and you're taking advantage of the power of that domain. And it's why you'll see a lot of people. So if you Google my name, Craig Campbell SEO, what you'll see is my homepage, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Then you'll start to see some PR about me. Now, why is PR so good for reputation management? And I don't mean PR in the traditional sense of getting yourself in the paper and paying $5,000, to get someone to make you sound like a superstar. Digital PR, use digital PR, getting on Google News websites, getting on anything that's powerful to continue to shove that shit further and further down the chain. And sometimes when you're doing that, you might then go in and say, right, I'm going to grab a really good ODYS domain name because I really need to hit like position 3 for this particular search term, and I really need something with a bit of power behind it. And that's where you would get that and put that in there and do what you need to do to get it into that position. But reputation management, you can leverage a whole bunch of other websites, even shitty things like Medium and stuff like that as well. And you can blast the shit out of them with automation and stuff like that as well. So reputation management is fairly easy. I think it's a case of mixing it up with some good old ODYS stuff. Even maybe, just buying guest posts on people's websites, setting up a few PBNs, and then utilizing social media platforms to flush everything else off of page 1. And it depends how far down you want to go to push the kind of bad stuff down. But that's some of the kind of stuff there. I certainly would not, under any circumstances, be buying exact match domains with a brand on it. One, that is just a mad red flag right in itself, because it's quite easy to identify what you're doing by doing that. Like to get on Behance or something, right? It can just be an article about that brand, just very generic. But if Google are ever going to slap something, it will be your exact match domains with the brand on it, because it's quite easy to identify what you're doing. You're manipulating stuff. So I think that's a massive red flag doing that in itself. Utilize other platforms and grab a few ODYS domains to throw into the mix, and utilize that backlink profile that these domains have, and build out a few PBNs on them.
Yeah, I would say from my point of view, it definitely depends a little bit on the competition, right? Because I mean, there's lots of sites out there that do like product reviews, for example, right? So if you have a domain, like you don't want to do this, but like Apple Mac review or something.com, like they will sue your ass. But if you do that with your own product name, um, you could probably do one or two of those, right? Like where you do them and it looks like you actually make it look like an affiliate site or something. But yeah, you definitely want to mix it up. Like you don't want to have all page one. It's basically like these direct match domains. Like that would be very, very suspicious, right? And honestly, like particularly, I mean, there's so many social media networks like LinkedIn and Facebook and stuff, and you do need something nowadays to actually kick them away, right? Like they have a lot of power and they have a lot of reputation. So it's not just buying a couple of direct match domains and then you're ranking, right? Like again, depending on the competition, right? So obviously, if it's a person name, it's potentially more difficult. If it's a product that no one ever heard of, then you might be able to do it, right? But again, like I would much rather look at it in a bigger picture. I mean, I love the affiliate route, right? Because you can also produce a lot of value and a lot of sales for yourself, right? So if let's say you're selling a SaaS software, for example, right? Like actually get like a domain around softwares, right? And do some reviews, not just your own, but like do it for a bunch of people. Actually set it up like a money-making site, and then focus on boosting the one you really want to have in the top, but like make it a legit site. A lot of people I know in e-commerce are benefiting hugely from actually building affiliate site or even buying sites, right? Go out and buy a site that's already in your niche, and then just make a post with your specific brand and add that to it, and make that specific post ranking. So again, depending on the trouble you're in, depending on the rep management challenges and so on, and the competitiveness of it, there's many different things to do, right?
Yeah, but also one thing I would add to that is, and Gareth Hoyle said it to me one day, if you cannot use a PBN and make it pay for itself, you're not doing it properly. So always monetize it regardless, is what I would say. Even if it makes you $500 a month, who cares? It's still something, pays for itself. So
yep. Okay, then we have a question from an Indian guy here who's saying, I would love to start a website in India. Does it make sense, or do you have to start in the US or Europe to make any money?
Absolutely. You do not have to make money in the US and the UK. Of course, the US is probably undeniably the biggest marketplace in the world. I even want to go after the US. The UK is like, so here's the thing. Everyone's got this perception that the UK is this big place and all that. Now, the UK actually has 65 million people staying here. Now, they're probably technically more advanced than other people, but guys in the SEO world are now looking at places like Germany or Sweden or all over Europe, all over the world. There's 85 million people apparently that stay in Germany. The SEO competition is half of what it is in the UK. So it's a lot easier to rank in Germany. There's more people buying, or potentially more people buying. So you can look to ranking well in other countries. You don't even if you're from India, you don't have to focus in India. You could focus in Italy. You could focus in wherever you want. Australia, for example. Australia's not that hard to rank in. Certainly not as competitive as the UK or the US. So do consider that. You don't have to work in the country that you are actually staying in. But of course, if you think Indians buy a lot of stuff and there's an affiliate deal there, you have, is it 1.2 billion people stay in India? So there's the massive market there on your own turf, and nothing wrong with tackling your own turf. I'm tackling my own turf in the UK, but over the years I've developed things in other countries, And I don't want to be busting my ass fighting in America all the time. If I can find something in Scandinavia, and I know a lot of clever guys who are doing well over there, why not? Get something that's not going to bust your balls to make, endless amounts of money. Go and find a country that you can really just grab and take hold of. And what you'll also find is the UK algorithms, in my opinion, and the US algorithms are far more aggressive than potentially some other countries where you can still get away with stuff that you were getting away with 5 years ago. I do not think the algorithms are as aggressive in places like Poland, Italy, and all of that kind of stuff. So also bear that in mind.
Yeah, and definitely a big comment for me on that one as well, because so yesterday we had Glenn talking, and he's from the Philippines, right? He built a health site, particularly aiming at the Philippines, and he went from 0 to 1 million traffic in 6 months, right? Like when you can do that kind of volume, it might not be worth the same as if you had 1 million in the US, but you're gonna find ways to monetize it, right? And our friend Umar, who's I think talking in the end of the summit, I mean he's marketing primarily to India, right? And he's making very good money doing so. So again, like with everything, it's pick a niche and dominate it, and start out small, pick a small niche, and be the guy, be the girl, and just grow it from there. So plenty of opportunity, even in local markets, if you're non-native English speaker. And I think sometimes the challenges is people are trying to compete in the US when they're not native US writers, for example, and that's obviously difficult, and you have to buy content and so on. Again, the challenge I see most people have here is they don't do it properly, right? Like it's easy to draw up a blog and put a bunch of posts on it, and like, oh, I have 20 posts, I'm not making money. But right, if you really like sit down, put your thinking cap on, and really sit down and slice out the right type of market, then you can make money, right? I mean, I saw a couple of guys in India a while back that were doing like meme websites or quote websites and things like that, and it's probably stuff that's not easily monetizable, right? You want to find stuff that you can monetize. You want to find stuff where you can actually make some money from it, right? What are some ways to monetize PBN apart from selling links?
Just make it an affiliate website, AdSense. I mean, those are the two main ones that you would want to consider. Lead gen. I mean, these things can be anything. A PBN is just a private blog network of websites. Now, they could be local websites that you then do lead gen on. You just do some GMB stuff on them and rank for a whole bunch of search terms. Do Amazon affiliate or whatever it might be, or AdSense is another option, as long as they're paying for themselves and they're not just lying there stagnant, not getting any content and no links, because they will eventually just fritter away, blow up, or just the metrics will go down to zero. So I think there's no point in going for volume of PBNs. Just build one, build another, make them pay for themselves, make them real websites, and whether you end up with 100 websites, 500 websites, who knows? Guys like, well, I'm not going to name names, but I know guys out there that have literally sitting with hundreds of money websites, and these websites have been worked all the time. Now, of course, they do maybe use mass page builders and do other things that maybe are not typical SEO, but they still generate leads, they still generate revenue. So one way or another, you have to make sure that they're paying for themselves, because otherwise you're not doing it right.
Yeah, no, I would just to add to that again, like one of the reasons that people love to specialize in niches is that, right? So the whole thing is, if your niche is, I don't know, stuff for babies, right? You can build up your own PBNs. You can have multiple sites in the same niche. And one of the things I found is, even if you have 5 solid PBNs, like 5 solid pages, then you can start trading with other people. And you can say, well, you're also in this niche. I have a couple of sites. If I get you a couple of links, I can get a couple of links from you and so on, right? And it gives you that initial leverage to make something of it, right?
Yep.
So you talked about the competitiveness of countries. What countries do you think have great opportunities right now if you want to share? So
take your pick. Like, literally, how many countries are in the world and how many are actually really that up to date when it comes to SEO? Now, I've been in this SEO industry for 18 years. However, I still know guys locally who don't even know what a website is. So SEO is not that big everywhere, and people are not taking it that seriously in every country. But look across Europe, pick any country you want out with the UK and the US, and you've probably got a country right there. But it really comes down to the niche you're in as well. Obviously, there's no point in just picking a country. I think it's really important that you do your research and see, because you've got your Ahrefs and your SEMrushes where you can actually go and see what the search volume is like in, New Zealand, for example. I can go and see if people are interested in dog collars in New Zealand. And if there's no search volume for it, I'm not going to make money. So you have to do research in the niche that you are actually trying to promote. Because as I say, what you're trying to promote might just not be good in that country. There's certain things in certain countries that are just going to have a lot more search volume. So it's really important that you do that research rather than just saying, oh, I fancy Portugal this week. Let's go and hammer some shit out in Portugal. Is it builders? Is it plumbers? Is it selling stuff? Like, what are you actually doing? And then go and look at the countries.
Yeah, so definitely quite a couple of comments on that one for me. So I would say I have a friend that basically specializes in doing this. He finds really good sites in the US, content-wise, and then definitely on the Black Hat side. But he basically have a team of translators, and he basically go and do keyword research in many different countries. So, but he operates in 20 plus countries, right? And he have plenty of like translators and content managers that basically do this. So he finds stuff that works well in the US market, and then he go and look what other countries is there gaps. Because what happens is, you might have, like, for example, one niche in Hungary might be super easy, whereas that same niche in Poland might be extremely difficult, whereas other niches could be the total reverse, right? So you need to do your keyword research. And definitely, I'm not condoning using other people's content and just translating it, but I'm just saying there's people making a lot of money doing that, right? And again, like, definitely a bigger benefit if you're from Spain or if you're from Italy or if you're from Germany, it makes sense to focus potentially on those countries, right? I'm from Denmark myself. Unfortunately, Denmark is a very small country, which means usually the volume is just not interesting for me. But a friend of mine is from Estonia, and that's like 1 million people or something, and they have very easy search engines. And as you always say, I sent like 3 English PBN links, and I'm ranking for casino sites and all that kind of stuff, right? So, there's opportunities everywhere, but the key thing again is keyword research. And yes, it is definitely more difficult in a language you don't understand. But
I've got one tip to add to that, right? So if you're sitting there just now, bored out your skull, and maybe just want to try something out, go and find a Swedish website and go to Google copy and paste the content and go to Google Translate and see how well that shit translates into English. It is really fucking good. That's all I'm saying. I wouldn't do something like that, but check it out, man.
I'm sure you never would.
But yeah, the old Swedes are good for content. They're your rivals, Mads. You told me steal from the Swedes, leave the Danish guys alone. So
that's because our language is so screwed up that you can't properly translate it. So no, all good. Right, guys, we have already been going over an hour. So if there's no questions in the next 5 seconds, then I think we'll wrap it up here. So Craig, again, thank you very much for joining me. There was only the two of us today, but again, lots of great questions from everyone, and fantastic. The marks have been silent. So yeah, thank you all, guys, and we will see you again tomorrow.
Cheers. See you later.